Welcome, everybody, to episode 7 of RoboWeekly. Can't believe we made it to 7. Hi, Dan. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
I heard
you're going down to see the lab tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the lab this week.
Well, that'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on there. Can't believe we made it to 7. 7. What do you got for me for 7?
Nothing. It's the 7th episode of RoboWeekly.
All right, I'll see.
You know what I've got? History.
You want to know what I've got? 7 is the number, and I checked this out. And it was only hunch, but I did check it out. 7 is the most likely number that people will respond when asked for a number between 1 and 10.
Right.
The other two being 3 and 5 in that order.
Yeah, I think 5 is a big thing in Chinese mythology.
Oh, is it?
Lucky number.
Lucky number
7.
5.
I don't know. 7. Craps, right?
Craps 7.
You've been known to play the craps.
I've been known to play craps. Let's take a look at this week's Robo Week. We are trying to make sure that we are presenting you what's happened in the last 7 days. We do obviously focus on cobots as opposed to industrial robots, but let's take a look at the first one, Pixo. Okay, so the reason why I picked up Pixo, you can see it here unloading a pallet. It's unloading a cargo container here. They just got $12 million in a Series B. But the real reason I wanted to put it in was because it's the only robot in this week's news that does not mention AI.
Interesting.
It's just like a regular Fanuc type pick and pack.
Right.
They are generating, without using the word AI, they are continuing to slog along in that industrial world.
Yeah, there's a few other companies that there was that company that we reviewed a couple episodes ago. I think we did it on air. That was, they were saying, don't depend on these action models, good old coding in C++. I don't remember where I read that, but there's a strain of that, like sort of pushback on this newfangled stuff.
Well, I think that, robotics has been one of those industries where it has existed and succeeded for a long time before AI. So there are these legacy companies like Fanuc that sort of have to adjust. This one's obviously decided to not make a big fanfare of adjusting and has raised 12 million. So good for Pixo. For Pixo. Let's move on to Neurorobotics. Neuro is interesting because it's a German company. They actually have a suite of products. This one is the one that's the most.
Looks familiar.
Yeah, all the other ones are industrial robots.
Right.
The reason I wanted to mention this one is because it's a German company. They've decided to relinquish the word vision language action model, and they've come up with their own phrase, which is called cognitive robot. And they've done that. So when you search for cognitive robot, Neurorobots is the only one that comes up, which it is.
Okay.
Neurorobot is a German company. They have just raised this week 123 million in a Series B. They are selling. They say on their website, just to be clear, most of their robots are industrial robots. This is the most consumer-friendly looking one. They say this one is shipping. I'm not going to bang on about it being a lie again. When I go and take a look, they're not shipping. They say fill this out for a prototype.
Right.
So I'm not going to say them, but it makes me unhappy.
I don't think you're not supposed to drop the F-bomb on YouTube.
No, I'm not, but I felt like it. But this is a nice looking cobot.
Yeah, a nice piece of kit.
Don't know how much it is, but seems it's got a face. Good for them.
It looks like it's got an elevator for the arm.
It looks like it's got an elevator for the arm, which is actually. I was going to show another one with an elevator for the arm. That is becoming something that I'm seeing more and more of.
Right.
But anyway, this is a German company, raised an enormous amount of money. This robot of theirs is actually called MIPA, M-I-P-A.
Okay.
But most of theirs are one-armed, industrially kinds of things. But just wanted to bring that up. They've raised a lot of money. Good for Neuro. Sorry, we can't buy it yet. Let's move on to our next one. Last week we talked about multi-terrain. Thought we'd do that again. This is just another way of getting over non-traditional terrain. This one's called Lyra.
And what exactly
Linux. This is called Linux, L-I-N-X. It's just another way of dealing with robots. I thought it might be a fun thing to do to look at non-traditional mobility once a week. Last week we looked at that sort of orb that that was able to move across ground.
Like a tumbling tumbleweed.
Yeah, tumbleweed. We've also looked at things that have got knees backwards. This time I thought I'd just show you what's been announced this week, which is Linux. We just
cool.
wanted to look at its gait. Yeah, it's cool. You know, it's oopsie daisy. Okay, talking about gates, we're going to look at another one. And this is one I think we looked at last week or the week before when we were talking about Chinese New Year. This is a robot out of China called Engine AI. It has an amazing gait. Look at that.
Yeah,
that is the first one I've seen that's looking like a human. Yep. And in the article, the interesting thing that it asked that I'd like your answer on was, does it make any difference that its gait looks human like that? Or is it really irrelevant to its goal?
I think it brings it closer to the uncanny valley. I think it makes it look less robotic. It makes it more likely that people are going to treat it more like a human. I think the more human, I mean, it's just another, direction of making it more human, basically. If you look at the one that has the backward knees, I think it's called agility. It looks very unhuman, right? So I don't know. So maybe it's still in Uncanny Valley. It's a little different than Faces, it seems to me. But we definitely. Yeah.
And there it is. We did see it doing the front flip, I think, last week, possibly. It is the same one, but I wanted to show it running. And I wanted to ask that question of whether we really care about it walking like a human or whether it walking with a different gait.
I think it's very expressive, and it becomes a question of,
its use.
User interface engineering, where you want to go with that.
What exactly it's going to be used
right.
for. Obviously, if it's just going to be in a factory and it wants to get something from position A to position B, what it looks like is totally irrelevant.
No, it has to be fast, though, because this also looked like it's faster than some of the other gates.
It does, and I like Engine AI. It produces nice videos. Ha ha ha.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to the last one of the day. Ricci. There's Ricci.
Didn't we see Ricci before?
We did see Ricci before. I'm not sure if we saw Ricci before or if we saw something that sounded like Ricci before. I know we're starting to repeat ourselves a little bit here. Ricci only has a sign-up page. It's from a company called Pollen. When we go and look at their video, it seems to be sort of sleepy. Just showing you what was announced this week, that Ricci seems to be making a little bit of noise. But I just wanted to sort of finish this off with the fact that we are seeing multiple companies with similar looking things, looking to do similar looking things without shipping any products at very high price points. I think we've now established that. I'm really hoping that in our next episode 8, after you've been spending time at the lab, you will be doing a big reveal for us next week so we can show people what we think state of the art is at sub $3,000 right now.
Right.
Let's move on to what I think is the big subject for today, which is foundational models for robots. Obviously, people have been talking about ChatGPT, the ChatGPT moment, transformers, how it affects robots. We've seen people talking about open sourcing some foundational models. We're talking about going open source. The big news of a few weeks ago was from Physical Intelligence coming out with Pi Zero. And yesterday, Google talked about Gemini a little bit more when it talked about RTX, which is its also open source foundational model. All of these need data sets. We need data sets. I thought maybe since ChatGPT has now been given lots of different names in terms of embodiment, you might want to weigh in on what these two huge open source foundational models mean to us and where that's going to take us, specifically Pi Zero and Gemini.
Right. So yeah, we discussed this a little bit, I think, last week, but my take on it is it's fundamental to getting robotics moving. And the big difference is you don't have this huge corpus of data like the internet that we had for language, or, the internet also for images and video. The internet does not have physics engine coordinate points for, arms putting, peanut butter on bread. That just doesn't exist. So one of the things that I'm looking at, the announcement from Google, is they've not just open sourced the code, they're open sourcing models and they're open sourcing data sets. And I think that's critical, right? Because without the data set, you really can't, this technology doesn't work. I mean, transformers need they need gobs and gobs of data. Now we've, in our own research looked at possible synthetic data. And I've been looking at the Gemini, actually Genesis physics engine. Is hard to keep it straight. There's the Genesis physics engine, and then there's Gemini, which is their basic chat thing that they used to call Bard. And now there's Gemini R for robot, right? So they've got this Gemini, or maybe it's ER, embedded robot or something like that.
And I think today they called it RTX, which is sort of robot open source.
Yeah, I read the archive paper a week ago, and it didn't have that branding, but I'm sure it's the same technology. Yeah, I've been, as you know, my background is in physics engines and simulation. I've been taking a close look at Genesis, the simulation engine that's under Gemini. And one of the things that it does is it has a more sophisticated physics engine for doing things that are difficult with Mujoko and Isaac, like grasping and creating small items like cups and cans and things that have rims and that you might pick and place in different ways. Those have been very hard to simulate. And it looks like Gemini is moving towards, or Genesis, so I can't get it straight, whichever one is the physics engine. Genesis, right. And Gemini, I think, is just branding for Genesis and, models, deep learning, right? Genesis is a physics engine. Gemini is a deep learning architecture on top of the physics engine. So I believe that we don't know for sure, but my suspicion is they are using a combination of human data. I know in some of their earlier, in the physical intelligence papers, they talked about having a mirror system. So you have a bunch of, like, let's say you have a robot with 2 arms at the same level with pincers, just, two pincers. And then you have another robot that has like 3 fingers, right? So that's a different paradigm, right? You need to sort of like, you have to sort of cover all the tracks of things that you might do in 2D space. And you want to combine synthetic and real. The synthetic is never exactly like the real, so you want to get the model to be smart about things that are discrepancies between its model of the world and the actual world.
The famous delta in the sim to real.
Yeah, the sim to real delta. They deal with that with randomization, so that they can't like sort of. They can't fool you by taking advantage of bugs in the physics engine. There's tons of great YouTubes if you want to look at I'm assuming
AI. That's to prevent overfitting also.
Yeah, well, that's a form of overfitting. Is finding a bug in your physics engine and using that to win the day is overfitting, because the next physics engine or the reality is not going to comport with that. Right. Anyway, what I was saying before, I was reading a paper a couple of weeks ago about the Pi people, physical intelligence, and there was something I was going to say about it. I can't remember right now, but I think the Google thing and the physical intelligence thing are roughly on the same trajectory.
So where are they going with it? Are they trying to do the same thing that we're doing, which is trying to acquire data sets? Are they trying to, do they want people to work on their code? Do they think their code is so transformative that it deserves to be out there?
Oh, you're asking why is it open source?
Yeah.
Actually, I should run my own company that's called Why Is It Open Source? And I charge $100,000 to answer that question to anybody who asks me. The reason they're doing open source is because they're behind, right? And same with physical intelligence. I mean,
as you said,
Tesla, figure out there,
watch them burn.
Scorched earth, right? You put out open source when you're not the leader, to basically slow the leader down, right? The leader, it's like a peloton in the bike race. The leader, gets all the air, and everybody else goes behind him.
Is it? But will it help small software companies like us?
Absolutely. I think it will. And there is an honest to goodness, altruistic component to it, but it's selfish in its own way, which is that you need an economy, you need an ecology, an environment, an ecosystem around this kind of thing. Like, even no matter how big a company is, one company can't do it all, is my opinion. And I'm an open source enthusiast for decades. If I'm known in the world, it's for that. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I think the open source stuff, it keeps you from getting vendor lock-in, right? Like, so I suspect that the Tesla is not going to be open sourced, right? It's he's going to push in the direction that he's always pushed, which is technical superiority and cutthroat competitiveness, and you know, that doesn't lead him to want to put stuff out in open source. But like Meta was in a different position when they put out Grok, or I'm sorry, Llama. Anyway, so yeah, so I think there's some legitimate need for open source that can be argued, and there's also a competitive advantage to, if you have somebody who's way in front of you and you're trying to catch up, you can slow them down by making it harder for them to monetize their proprietary solution.
I think we are starting to understand, oh, Professor, how it all works now. We're running out of time. I just wanted to show you my RoboWeekly t-shirt.
Oh, cool.
This week's Robo t-shirt goes to a commenter, Joe Toll 2. He's going to get this in the mail. And please comment. We'll send you one. Thank you very much for your time. We look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, everybody.